Heel to her. She's your kid. Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Ram. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo, Haribo. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Can you throw me a cushion? Thank you. So welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. I have a book in English, but I don't know. Tu parles anglais? Oui. So we're now reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 4, entitled The Appearance of Sri Narada. And this is verse number 5. We're reading today. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So please repeat. Dristva nuyantam nishimatmajamapyanagnam. Majamapyanangam. Devyorya paridadurna shutasya chitram. Tadvikshya pritchati muno jagarustavashti. Stripum vidana tushutasya vivikta drishte. Tristva nuyantam rishimatma janapyanagnam. Devyorya paridadurna sutasya chitram. Tadvikshya pritchati muno jagadustavashti. Stripum vidana sututasya vivikta drishte. Trista nuyantam rishimatma jamapyanagnam. Devyorya paridadurna sutasya chitram. Tadviksha pritchati muno jagadustavashti. Stripum vidana sututasya vivikta drishte. Pristva nuyantam nishimatma janapyanagnam. Devyoriya paridadurna sutasya chitram. Tadviksha pritchati muno jagadustavashti. Stripum vidana sututasya viviktra driste. Anyone else? Tristanuyantam rishimatmajanapyanagnam. Devyoriya paridadurna sutasya chitram. Tadviksha pritchati muno jagadustavasti. Stripum vidana tu sutasya vivikta drishte. Ladies? Drisva nuyantam nishimatma janapyanagnam. Tadviksha pritchati muno jagadustavashti. Stripum vidana stututasya vivikta drishte. Word for word translation. Dristva, by seeing. Anuyantam, following. Rishim, the sage. Atmajam, his son. Api, in spite of. Anagnam, not naked. Divyaha, beautiful damsels. Riya, out of shyness. Paridadu, covered the body. Na, not. Sutasya, of the sun. Chitram, astonishing. Tadviksha, by seeing that. Prichati, asking. Muno, unto the Muni. Vyas. Jagaduhu, replied. Tava, your. Ashti, there are. Stripum, male and female. Bida, differences. Na, not. Tu, but. Sutasya, of the sun. Vivikta, purified. Driste, of one who looks. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. While Sri Vyasadeva was following his son, beautiful young damsels who were bathing naked covered their bodies with cloth, although Sri Vyasadeva himself was not naked. But they had not done so when his son had passed. The sage inquired about this, and the young ladies replied that his son was purified, and when looking at them, made no distinction between male and female. But the sage made such distinctions. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita 5.18, it is said that a learned sage looks equally on a learned and gentle Brahmin, a Chandala dog-eater, a dog, or a cow, due to his spiritual vision. Srila Shukadev Goswami attained that stage. Thus he did not see a male or female, he saw all living entities in different dress. The ladies who were bathing could understand the mind of a man simply by studying his demeanor, just as by looking at a child one can understand how innocent he is. Shukadev Goswami was a young boy, 16 years old, and therefore all the parts of his body were developed. He was naked also, and so were the ladies. But because Shukadev Goswami was transcendental to sex relations, he appeared very innocent. The ladies, by their special qualifications, could sense this at once, and therefore they were not very concerned about him. But when his father passed, the ladies quickly dressed. The ladies were exactly like his children or grandchildren, yet they reacted to the presence of Vyasadeva according to the social custom, because Srila Vyasadeva played the part of a householder. A householder has to distinguish between a male and a female, otherwise he cannot be a householder. One should, therefore, attempt to know the distinction between body and soul without any attachment for male and female. As long as such distinction is there, one should not try to become a sannyasi like Shukadev Goswami. At least theoretically, one must be convinced that a living entity is neither male nor female. The outward dress is made of matter by material nature to attract the opposite sex and thus keep one entangled in material existence. A liberated soul is above this perverted distinction. He does not distinguish between one living being and another. For him, they are all one and the same spirit. The perfection of this spiritual vision is the liberated stage, and Srila Shukadev Goswami attained that stage. Srila Vyasadeva was also in the transcendental stage, but because he was in the householder's life, he did not pretend to be a liberated soul, as a matter of custom. Om Jnanatimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Nadati Swaha Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sahadvaitam Sahavadutam Pahijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhavitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakaupatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, just maybe everybody hasn't followed the whole story so far, so I'll just give a little summary. Srila Shukadev Goswami was in the womb of his mother for many years, for 12 years, and so when finally he was in there because he was already self-realized in the womb of his mother, Brahman realized, and so he had no interest in coming out of the womb to go into the world, explore the world, interact with the material energy, because he was already satisfied within himself. So he was like, why go out there? It's so dangerous to come in contact with the material energy. So entangling, so contaminating, so better I just stay here in the womb of my mother. But then eventually he did come out, and so when he was born, he was already a grown young man. And immediately upon birth, he left home. He left his mother and father to leave and just go and wander. But Srila Vyasadeva, who's his father, didn't want him to leave. He's been waiting 12 years for this son. The son is born and the son just leaves. So the father's like, come, please come back. So he's following him. As Shukadeva Goswami is leaving, Srila Vyasadeva is following him. And so here they walk past a lake, and so we see that there's some young ladies bathing there with no clothes on. And when Shukadeva Goswami walks past, they're not in the least bit disturbed. They don't really pay attention because they can see he's just on another platform. He's not interested in male and female. Jai Shri Radha Govinda Madhava, Shri Krishna Balaram, Shri Kiraj Maharaj, Shri Rahadev, Shri Lakshmi Nrsingadev, Shri Gauranitai Ki Jai. Yeah, so the ladies didn't make they didn't change what they were doing when Shukadeva Goswami walked past, because he was on such a liberated platform that he had made, as Srila Prabhupada discusses at length, he made no distinction between different types of bodies. And so therefore they were not disturbed. But when his father walked past, Srila Vyasadeva, even though he's also a self-realized soul, the ladies did cover themselves, because this self-realized soul, Srila Vyasadeva, was acting as a householder. And to be a householder, as Srila Prabhupada mentions, you have to make these distinctions, because the householder is navigating the world. Even if he is self-realized, he still has to navigate the world in a practical way, and so he has to make a distinction. So in this purport, Srila Prabhupada focuses on this aspect of the transcendental platform, that on the transcendental platform, because of spiritual vision, one makes no distinction. One does not discriminate between one body and another type of body, one condition and another type of condition. Because transcendental means above the dualities of the material world, beyond the dualities of male and female, and good and bad, and pleasing and displeasing, is beyond all these things. So there's no need to discriminate, because it's not affected by these dualities. And so Srila Prabhupada first of all quotes this verse from Bhagavad Gita 5.18, where Krishna explains that the learned and gentle Brahmana, he does not discriminate between a Brahman, a Shudra, an animal, a cow, a dog eater, because he sees the soul within. And Srila Prabhupada, in the purport to that verse, explains that from the viewpoint of the learned transcendentalist, the differences between bodies are meaningless. This is due because he sees the spiritual essence within. He sees their relationship with the Supreme. He sees that in every living entity, Paramatma is in the heart, and the Jiva is there. And on the spiritual level, all living entities are on an equal platform. So in the modern world now, there's a lot of talk about equality, but Srila Prabhupada would often come back on this point, that equality is equality of the soul. Equality of the soul means all souls and all living entities are of the same nature. They're all part of God, and so they have equal value in that sense. And in another verse in Bhagavad Gita, in the 18th chapter, Krishna says, Brahma bhuta prasanatmana sochati na kankshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labate param. So again, we have this line, Sama sarveshu bhuteshu. Sama means equal, sarveshu means all, and bhuteshu is all living entities. So equality to all living entities. But who is it that has this equality to all living entities? That person who is Brahma, Bhuta, Prasanna, the one who is self-satisfied, who is situated on the Brahman platform, who is transcendently situated. So this is an important element here in understanding what it means to not discriminate. This ability to not discriminate on a spiritual level is for those who are spiritually situated on the transcendental platform. So we have this definition of the Uttama Adhikari, the topmost Vaishnava, the first class devotee is the one who is completely on the liberated platform and has this vision. And so in all these verses that mention this equality of vision, it always says who has this equality of vision is the learned transcendentalist, or the self-realized soul, or the one who is situated on the Brahman platform. So it's from when that we have realized that spiritual essence within ourselves that we can see with equal vision like this. So in practical application, what does this mean to not discriminate? I was looking up some quotes yesterday. There's lots of quotes where Srila Prabhupada says, we do not discriminate. This Krishna consciousness movement is for everyone. Everybody can come, everybody can participate, can get some benefit, everyone can come in contact with this. So no discrimination means that everybody is given equal opportunity. That is, that's how we can understand this, how to practice no discrimination even when we are not on this liberated platform. Srila Prabhupada is on the liberated platform and he's saying, okay, don't discriminate between different types of bodies, give everyone the opportunity. So we don't see the soul maybe in all living entities, but under the guidance of Srila Prabhupada, we also don't discriminate. So in this way, in Krishna consciousness, everyone is given the opportunity. Anyone who comes is welcome to take prasadam, hear the holy name. When we go on Harinam Sankirtan in the streets, we're not discriminating, we're chanting very loudly. Everybody can hear the holy name. And this is something that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually has introduced, because before, like there's a story with Ramanujacharya, who really wanted to take initiation from one particular spiritual master called Goshtipurna. And so he went to him and asked him for the mantra that he had. And Goshtipurna was very reluctant to give him this mantra, because he said this mantra is so powerful that anybody who hears it becomes established on the spiritual platform, is liberated of all sins, is purified, and it's so powerful. So we don't tell everyone this mantra. And so eventually Ramanujacharya received it because he was a special soul. But his guru said, promise that you will not tell this mantra to anyone. And then so Ramanujacharya promised, and then he was leaving. He thought, but this mantra has the ability to liberate any living entity who hears it from the cycle and birth and death. Why should it not be heard by everybody? It's cruelty to not share this mantra. Why should we not share it with everyone? So then he did, and anyway, he got into a little bit of trouble with his guru, but then they all came to the conclusion that actually anything precious like that, we should give everybody the opportunity to hear. So sometimes there's this, in India at least traditionally, there was this idea that only qualified people should hear the holy name, only qualified people should be able to worship the deity and all these things. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is like, no, everybody is entitled to this mercy. Everybody needs to have this opportunity. And so Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, Lord Nityananda, Haridas Thakur, all these devotees, they were giving to everybody, anybody without discrimination. So this is the special quality of Lord Chaitanya's movement that Srila Prabhupada has also brought to us. And the devotees also continuing on this tradition that, okay, when we go on book distribution, Harinam, Prasadam distribution, everybody gets the opportunity to take. anybody can come to the temple like that. And Srila Prabhupada makes this comment that devotional service and the guidance of a pure devotee are so strong that there needs to be no discrimination between lower and higher classes of men. Anyone can take part. So there's an extraordinary aspect that we also have to learn to appreciate in Srila Prabhupada's Krishna consciousness movement, Lord Chaitanya's Krishna consciousness movement, is that regardless of our qualifications or disqualifications, we have been given this opportunity to take part in this great spiritual movement. And it's based on this understanding that, like, fire is always fire. Fire will burn no matter who touches it. So the Krishna consciousness movement, the holy name, is so powerful, devotional service so powerful, that actually anybody who comes in contact with it will become purified and get great benefit from this. Again, we have Prahlad Maharaj in his teachings to his classmates when he was still a young boy at school. He was the son of Hiranyakashipu, living in a demoniac kingdom, and he had to go to school, and so it was a demoniac school. And in that school, they were teaching all about how to make allies, how to recognize your enemies, so in order to get the most sense gratification from your allies, and destroy those who impede your sense gratification. And after hearing all this, Prahlad Maharaj is like, what is this about enemies and friends? That is only, when you have a material vision, you see certain people are my friends, certain people are my enemies, because your center point is your own sense gratification, your own false ego. But Prahlad Maharaj says, I make no distinction between enemies and friends. I do not discriminate. Everybody is part and parcel of God. So why should we make a difference like this when I am the reference point? But as we were saying earlier, the relationship of the jiva with the Supreme is the reference point. So from that point of view, we can have this equal vision. And again, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, his famous verse, Samoham sarva bhuteshu namedveshu shtinha priya vibhajanti tumam bhaktya mayitete shuchapyaham. Krishna, again, Samo, we have this word Samo Samaha, means equanimity, equality, that's come back in all these verses so far. Samo aham sarva bhuteshu. I see everyone with equal vision, Krishna says. I envy no one, nor is anyone particularly dear to me. I am equal to everyone, like the sun. The sun gives to everybody without considering where it's shining. So Krishna also confirms this, that no, we shouldn't make distinction like this. Every living entity gets equal opportunity. But in the second part of that verse, it's interesting. Krishna says, I'm equal to everyone. No one gets favors. No one gets enmity. But still, Yibhajanti tumam bhaktya. Those who worship me with great devotion, I reciprocate in a special way with them. So, this is an interesting aspect, because sometimes we can think, okay, is God partial, impartial? God is impartial in the sense that he, and again, like we were saying, in the sense that he gives everyone equal opportunity to come in contact with him, to approach him, to serve him, or to do whatever they want in the material existence. So in that sense, Krishna is equal to everyone. He doesn't particularly favor or penalize anybody, because he gives everybody the opportunity. But those who take the opportunity to get to know him, who come towards him, naturally he's going to reciprocate, because he's also made this promise that however you approach me, I will reciprocate accordingly. So there is this kind of qualified qualification here of how to apply this this discrimination, no discrimination. And so this is a kind of a turning point, because it introduces another notion that, okay, we try to see everybody in equal vision, at least theoretically we understand that everybody gets equal opportunity. But still, Krishna is saying, still, according to how each individual is going to act, according to the situation they're in, I'm going to treat them, accordingly, in a different way. So, so far we've been discussing this aspect of how a spiritualist should not discriminate and make distinctions or exclude anybody from the opportunity to engage in devotional service. But Krishna is telling us, but still, you should still consider the situation. So this brings us to the aspect of how there is still some element of discrimination, of discernment, of making some distinction or using our intelligence to apply this principle. Because as we were saying, basically there's fundamentally we make no distinctions, because fundamentally we see the equality of the soul. But in practice, on a practical level, the practical application of this principle needs to be adapted and adjusted to the particular situation, to the particular entities that are there. So in practice and in our daily life, we need to practice such discrimination, actually, as very, very essential. And actually, so earlier we were speaking, the one who sees with equal vision is the Uttama Adhikari, the topmost devotee. And Srila Prabhupada, in the books, he's always presenting the highest level, the highest stage of realization, what we should aspire for. But then there's also other books where he's explaining, or certain places where he's explaining the different stages. And so when he's describing the different classes of devotees, we have the topmost devotee, who's completely self-realized, and then we have the second class devotee, who's the Madhyama Adhikari. And Srila Prabhupada says that the Madhyama Adhikari must discriminate between what is favorable and unfavorable for Krishna consciousness. That is one of the definitions, one of his duties and needs, is to discriminate between the favorable and the unfavorable for Krishna consciousness. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he has these 6 principles of surrender, and 2 of those principles are to accept what is favorable for devotional service and reject what is unfavorable. So these are actually very important elements in our lives as Kanishta or Madhyama Adhikaris in the lower levels of devotional practice. We need to be able to navigate the world in a way that is going to be favorable for our Krishna consciousness. So we have, for example, I'm studying with somebody at the moment the Nectar of Instruction. And the Nectar of Instruction, the second and third verses, which explain the 6 practices that are favorable for devotional service and 6 practices that are detrimental to devotional service. And so in that book, Rupa Goswami is explaining to us how we discriminate, because it's a specific type of discrimination. It's a spiritual discrimination. Normally when we speak about discrimination these days, it's like you're discriminating against women, or discriminating against minorities, or discriminating against whatever, based on material considerations, based on sense gratification, based on the material conception of life. But what we need to learn to develop is spiritual discrimination based on Krishna consciousness as being the goal, the reference point. So therefore we don't discriminate against what is favorable or unfavorable for my sense gratification, but we do need to analyze what is favorable and unfavorable for the development of my Krishna consciousness. So we have many parts of the scriptures that explain these different elements. What is favorable, what is unfavorable. It's actually the discrimination is the function of the intelligence. The senses just gather information from the world around and feel things. The mind is just thinking, is rejecting and accepting. I like, I don't like, I like, I don't like, based on the input from the senses. But the intelligence's role is to orchestrate and organize all this information. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains that there's matter, then there's the senses who come into contact with this matter. But higher than the senses, there's the mind, who's taking the information from the senses. Above the mind is the intelligence, who is supposed to process the information and make decisions accordingly. And above that is the soul. So when we're not practicing spiritual life, the tendency is the ones who get the last word are the senses and the mind, which is the lower ranks of the echelon. Those who should be at the bottom are at the top. So those who are dictating our lives and our decisions are the mind and the senses. But what Krishna is telling us in this verse is, no, you have to put the intelligence and the soul back on top of these things and make your decisions based on that, not based on the impressions of the mind and the senses. So this process of understanding what is favorable and what is unfavorable for our Krishna consciousness basically means developing our spiritual intelligence because we have been running wildly after the mind and the senses for so many lifetimes. The intelligence, particularly the spiritual intelligence, is very weak and has very little influence actually on the decisions we make. So the first thing we have to do is, put the intelligence back on top, strengthen your spiritual intelligence so that you can properly understand things in their proper perspective. So this is how we use our spiritual intelligence. Srila Prabhupada actually gives in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the summary of chapter 29, Srila Prabhupada explains that swan-like men, i.e. those who know how to discriminate between essential and non-essential, always take shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here the definition of swan-like men, Paramahamsas, spiritualists, is that they discriminate between the essential and non-essential. So in practical application, it's interesting to look at these things. It's always interesting. You can look at the scripture in so many different ways, on so many different levels. So as we mentioned, Srila Prabhupada, most often in Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, he's giving the topmost philosophy, the topmost ideal and principles. Right? So it's interesting to understand the goal, the direction, the vision, and the truth in its purest state. And then it's also interesting to kind of analyze that and see, what does this mean in practical day-to-day existence. So based on the philosophy, like what we were reading in this purport here, that we make no distinction between different types of bodies because of the presence of the soul inside the body. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that I am the father of all living entities, therefore all living entities are our brothers and sisters. So the tiger is our brother, but Prabhupada says still you don't embrace the tiger, because the body he's in, you give all respect. Maybe you can give him some prasadam or let him hear the holy name or something. Respect him as a living entity with equal vision. But your dealings with the tiger will be different than your dealings with a human being. Or similarly, if one of your family members has an extremely contagious disease, the same love is there, the same affection, the same respect, the same care and concern is there, but you're not going to interact with them in the same way as when they are healthy. So it's actually essential for our spiritual health and growth to know what is proper nourishment for our devotional creeper and what is not, what is detrimental. We have to be able to tell, oh, here is a disease, let me stay away, and here is something that's healthy and going to nourish me, so let me go towards that. So the same principle with the tiger or the diseased family member. In the same way, we respect everybody we come in contact with, all devotees, all types of devotees. There are many types of devotees, actually. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains this in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that he explains someone asked him 3 consecutive years, what is a Vaishnava? And the first time Lord Chaitanya says a Vaishnava is anybody who's chanted the holy name once is a Vaishnava. And then the second year he said, anybody who chants the holy name with a fixed vow and determination and serves Supreme Personality of Godhead is a Vaishnava. And then the third year he said, a Vaishnava is one who, just by seeing him, inspires others to chant. So this just kind of shows there's a whole variety of devotees and ways of practicing Krishna consciousness. So we respect all devotees, because everybody who's come in contact with this movement is special. Anybody who's trying to dedicate their life to God is a very special living entity. But still we have to see which kind of association is going to be beneficial, which kind of association is maybe not so beneficial. As Lord Chaitanya says, Asat Sangha Tyaga Avaishnav Achar, that the definition of a Vaishnav is that he rejects materialistic association. We also have this verse, Mahad Sevam Dwara Mahur Vimukte Tamodvaram Yoshita Shangi Sangam, that when you associate with great souls, the doors to liberation are open. But if you associate with materially minded people, the doors to hell are wide open. So materialistic consciousness is detrimental for our Krishna consciousness. So we have to be able to tell, this is materialistic association, this is spiritual association. What is spiritual association? Krishna tells us in the Bhagavad Gita, in the one of the Chaturasloki verses, Machita matkata prana bodhayanta parasparam tamam nityan tushanti charamanti cha. Merci. This is why association of devotees is nice. So Krishna explains that, what do my devotees do? They enlighten and enliven each other by discussing topics about Krishna. They nourish each other by exchanging spiritual conversations. That is sadhu sangha. That is what devotees do in association. Chanting, kirtan, discussing topics about Krishna, Krishna consciousness, helping each other practice Krishna consciousness. That may mean sometimes you discuss things that are a little bit mundane maybe, but it's always with the view of how is this going to enliven, how to enliven each other, how to inspire each other in Krishna consciousness, to dedicate ourselves more and more to stay fixed on the path of devotional service. So this is the kind of association that will be nourishing. This is the kind of favorable association we need to seek. Srila Prabhupada often says one must seek out the association of pure devotees even. So it's always take the best you can get, the most pure association you can get. We have the association of a pure devotee in Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, all of Srila Prabhupada's books. And we must seek out those devotees also in our life who we can do that with and who uplift us. Ayur Hayati Vaipumsam, in this Bhagavatam there's this verse that every rising and setting of the sun we are one day closer to death. So we have no time for association that is not uplifting for our spiritual life. We don't have time. to waste. Time does not belong to us anyway. Time belongs to Krishna, so we must use it for him and his glorification. So we don't have time for materialistic association. We don't have time for mundane conversations. To keep our focus, one important thing to keep to go on this path of devotional service is we have to keep going for a long time. We need determination, so we need encouragement also. So it's important to stay focused. When you're focused on the goal by discussing it, exploring it, reading about it, hearing about it, praying, then you can keep going and you will not be so affected by the things around you. Like Shukadev Goswami, he's just walking past, there's ladies with no clothes, not the least bit interested, because he's focused on his spiritual existence, on his realization, so he's not interested. So this, whatever helps to increase this focus is very essential, and whatever distracts us from that focus is harmful, actually. In the material existence, Maya is making her propaganda 24 hours a day. Our mind sometimes can be an agent of Maya because there's so much materialistic information accumulated in there. Our senses, everything, the world around us is telling us enjoy, taste, take this, or with other people, what they're saying, the radios, the newspapers, songs, everything is Maya's propaganda 24 hours a day. So we need to counteract this propaganda and replace it by Krishna's propaganda. So anytime we're not absorbed meditating on the teachings of Krishna, we're not absorbed in praying, or not absorbed in reading or discussing or worshipping the deity, we are hearing Maya's propaganda. So we have to make this effort to fill ourselves with Krishna conscious topics so that we can stay focused. And ultimately this ability to discriminate, it comes down to our sincerity. If you're sincerely seeking out a beneficial association, then Krishna will direct us to that. If we're not so sincere and we're looking for somebody who tells us, it's okay, chant your rounds while watching television, no problem, I did it too, you'll get purified anyway, or anything like this that is not, this proper information to be hearing. I lost my point. Yeah, we have to be able to. If we're not sincere and we're looking for someone to comfort us in our illusion, we will find that. But if we're praying, please Krishna, give me the proper association, help me become more sincere, I'm trying to be sincere, please direct me to the right sources so I can drink from the well of Amrita, not the poison well. Krishna reciprocates with that. Because ultimately this ability to distinguish is not in our power. Krishna gives us that. He says, again in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Tesham satata yuktam ham bhajatam pritipurvakam nadabi mudi yogam tam yenamamupayanti te. Those who worship me with determination, I give them the intelligence by which they can come to me. So it's Krishna who's going to give us this ability to differentiate between poisoned wells and wells of nectar, which sources to drink from, which sources not to drink from. So all of this actually comes through sincerely trying to please Krishna by hearing his message, by speaking, by being sincere and honest, and actually taking seriously our Krishna consciousness. Then Krishna will give us the ability to go to the right places, not go to the places of pilgrimage for crows, but go to the sources of nectar. So when we hear when we're praying sincerely, Krishna will from within give us this ability. And also from without, we can also do our part. We hear, if we hear the scriptures, hear the Guru with submissiveness and while serving them, Tadvidi Paripratina, we also can develop our intelligence, and then we can filter this information through Krishna within our heart will help us filter information, and with our intelligence that we've strengthened through reading the books, hearing the philosophy. When we hear information, someone's telling us, whatever it is, it's okay if you don't eat prasadam for a week, it's not so bad, and there's whatever, I understand, and you think, let me filter that through Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, see what Srila Prabhupada says about this, or any piece of information. We can then filter through all these things. In reference to the scriptures, did my spiritual master say that when I'm sick I don't have to chant my rounds? I don't think he said that, So even though someone's telling me that, someone who may be charismatic, older than me, whatever, I know better, because my guru never said that. Srila Prabhupada never, so, and then with our sincerity, Krishna will also help us make the right choices. So there we go. It's time to stop. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I hope it was beneficial and truthful for everybody's benefit. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
So by what you say, Krishna does not discriminate, but he reciprocates. But when he says that he comes to annihilate the miscreants and protect the devotees, is that reciprocation, discrimination, and reciprocation? No.
Yeah, this is an interesting point. Hiranyakashipu makes this point too. Lord Rahadev killed Hiranyaksha, the brother of Hiranyakashipu, and so Hiranyakashipu was very upset, and all the family members were very upset. So Hiranyakashipu, who's a very learned person actually, he goes to preach to them to make them feel better, and he speaks all very good philosophy actually about the nature of the soul and the temporary nature of the body and all these things. And then he starts glorifying Hiranyaksha, that he was such a righteous man, so powerful, so just glorifying him. But this Vishnu, he's killed him, he's given up his discrimination. No, he's given up his impartiality. He's discriminating. So Hiranyakashipu makes this point that, see, God has become impartial because he killed my brother, because he was a demon. So yeah, it's an interesting aspect. But yeah, it's just that verse, the Samoham Sarvabhuteshu. Everybody has equal opportunity, but if they choose to be inimical to Krishna, to have that kind of relationship with him, then he reciprocates with them, but they still get in contact with them. So he's reciprocating in that sense, because the devotees are worshipping him, glorifying him, so he reciprocates accordingly. They took that opportunity. The demons, they took a different opportunity, and so he reciprocates like that. But if the demons, see Lord Ram in the Ramayana, he's also in this thing. This is often, an incarnation comes, there's some demon to kill or something like that to do. And so Lord Ram came to destroy Ravana. So to be with his devotees. So all the devotees are getting the association of Ramchandra. And Ravana, okay, Lord Ram's going to try to kill him. He's going to try to find him, conquer him, and destroy him. So he's protecting the devotees and annihilating the miscreants. But Lord Ram said, when Vibhishan came, Vibhishan is the brother of Ravana, but he's a devotee, he came to take shelter of Ram, and Ram accepted him because he was devotional, and some of the devotees of Ram, they were like, yeah, but he's the brother of Ravana, you never know, how can we trust him? But Lord Ram said, no, anybody who takes shelter, who sincerely takes shelter of me, even once I give him all protection. And then he says, even if Ravana himself came to me and surrendered to my feet, I would embrace him and give him all protection. So if Ravana changes his attitude, he will reciprocate with love also. Yes.
How about us?
What about us?
Trying to, not me, but management, devotees who really try to run a community to bring people up the Krishna consciousness. So, should they not discriminate also, or should at one point discriminate and even reciprocating with some kind of non-cooperation or nonsense?
Yeah, I was listening to a class yesterday that kind of addressed this specifically, like discrimination in management. So I'm not going to try and give instructions to the management, but, but based on the principles that I have understood, yeah, awkward. The temples is open to everyone. Like everybody can come and get the opportunity to come in contact with devotional service. And, that is compassion, a manifestation of compassion, is this generosity. And anybody can come. Even you can see in the early days, Srila Prabhupada, everyone was on drugs and alcohol and everything you can imagine. And coming into the temple in an intoxicated state, still he would let them come, give them the opportunity, give them prasadam, let them sit in the class. And if, they were a little bit eccentric, whatever, he kind of accommodated that. If someone was very disruptive, in compassion for everyone else who's in the room, they would maybe ask them to leave. Sometimes if someone's like really drunk or violent or aggressive, the compassion then is like to ask him to move on. But still, if he comes in a sober state, they can come back. But then for those who were because sometimes we have this idea that, okay, compassion, we don't discriminate, everybody can come, but then we forget about the protection of those who are already here. So there has to be a balance also. Compassion to those who are coming, but compassion to those who are here means maintaining the principles strictly, so that there is always this pure place that we can come to seek nourishment, because everything becomes diluted because there's no discrimination, everybody can come join in, but then by that you lose the standard, you compromise the principles, anything goes, then we're no longer a spiritual oasis where people can come to get the truth. So there has to be a balance between letting anything and anyone come and giving everyone the opportunity, but still there has to be, okay, if you want to stay here, or if you want to participate, then you have to follow certain things, and we should never compromise the essence. There should always be, we shouldn't start speaking in the Bhagavatam class that, okay, it's okay if you still want to take intoxication, we won't discriminate against you, and whatever, but so the truth should always be accessible, should not be diluted. So anyway, that's why also there's often this mention of like segregation. There's this part in the Bhagavatam where is it Priyavrat Maharaj who first drew boundaries between countries, I think? And with the mountains, the rivers, to keep different classes of people in different places to avoid quarrel and to avoid, you have different natures, so they maybe don't function together properly. So this is why, you have an ashram, which should be the highest standard of purity, exemplary, the ideals of their compassion to those who want to take shelter. That means we need to create that environment where it's accessible, and compassion to others, those who are coming in whatever state they are, we have a space for that, but not that those people then move into the ashram, because then, we've diluted the... So anyway, that's something I can say based on. So there's a balance, and we also have to be compassionate to devotees, not just to newcomers. And so we have to make sure the truth is available, accessible, at the highest standard that we can, as well as giving others the opportunity. Is that okay?
What are the more qualities of Madhyam Adhikari?
I didn't revise my nature and social. No, one of them, actually a big distinction is the Kanishta Adhikari, which is like the neophyte devotee. He, for example, he only sees God in the temple. He's not very fixed in his practice. He doesn't have a lot of understanding, like philosophical understanding of what's going on, like this. The Madhyama Adhikari, he has that knowledge. He knows the philosophy. He's somewhat established in his practice with some commitment, and he doesn't only see God in the temple. He can at least theoretically see, oh no, God is also outside the temple. God is also in other living beings. Like a Kanishta Adhikari may be on the altar, first class, kind of attitude, but then reckless with other people, not respectful, because not seeing that Krishna is also in the heart, watching everything I do outside the altar. Whereas the Madhyama understands this, and like, okay, Krishna's on the altar, but Krishna's also, in my room, and this is also his energy, and all these living entities are his, and so you have more this vision, even not realized, maybe, like not like the Uttamadhikari, but the Madhyam kind of understands this, and so he's respectful to living entities, and so he knows how to interact with them according to their level. So he'll know how to make friendships with devotees, how to try to, uplift the innocent, how to stay away from those who are inimical, how to take the association of more advanced devotees. He'll know, because he's discriminating. He's looking for the higher association. And another aspect of the Madhyama Adhikari is that he wants to share Krishna consciousness. He has the Kanishta is like my spiritual life, my japa, my kind of still materialistic, self-centered. Whereas the Madhyama is like, I need to share this. This is a treasure. I need to share this now.
Does he share at the expense of his own japa sometimes?
Not at the expense. Otherwise, what are we going to share? If we compromise our japa, what can we give? We have to have a relationship with Krishna. We have to have some substance to be able to give. So japa, reading, sadhana should never be compromised. Otherwise, what are we going to give people? We're trying to give Krishna, so we have to have Krishna. We have to be in contact with Krishna. So yeah, not at the expense of those things, but maybe at the expense of some, comfort or personal, like the marathon, book distribution marathon, for example. We don't compromise our sadhana. Like it's in Vaisheshika Babu's Our Family Business, the first principle of distributing books is good sadhana. Before you get to the street, you need to have good sadhana. That's where it starts, because Krishna will reciprocate with your attitude and how you're pleasing him. And so the sadhana is always there. But then the rest of the day, we're going to compromise on our comfort and stand on the street for hours in the cold, or go out every day and be tired, or anything, things like that. So some sacrifice is there, but not sacrifice of the sadhana.
Prabhupada said that if I like your three Madhyam Adhikaris, I can change the whole world. What does that say about devotees we are meeting every day who seem like, okay, they are so high class, but according to this statement of Prabhupada, how do I reconcile this with Madhyam Adhikari?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Prabhupada says that if he gives three Madhyam Adhikaris, he can change the whole world.
Yes.
So sometimes we see people who seem very high class, the things you explain that they want to share the expense of comfort but no sadhana. So we see that in people and how they're trying to look at Krishna, how they're only trying to look at good qualities.
Oh, I see. So you're saying, are there not three Adhikari and Madhyam Adhikaris in the world that the world has been transformed? Is that what you mean?
Maybe judgment is too weak.
That's an interesting question. Well, they are changing the world. Prabhupada's movement is changing the world. So and, you can see there's thousands of people practicing. I mean, yeah, thousands of people's lives are being transformed. So he is changing the world. I mean, I don't know what context he meant that statement, so I can't really, explain what he meant by that because I don't have the reference. But Prabhupada is changing the world. So, yeah. Okay, we have to stop there. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vaishnav Sadhu Sangha ki jai.